That's right, the legendary version of our Sagittarius has arrived. Flash Sagittario 230 WD Wide Defense. The legendary version of Sagittario, its second evolution, its evolved form, which I think is just amazing. And I'm super excited to analyze this product, which I think is incredible. Let's take a look at the parts of our bay. Zooming in here, we can see the details of our box, right? Which is the icon here, the little eyes of Sagittario. And I think these eyes of his are really cool. And we can see at the top that it's a Takara Tomy Bay in the 4D system, spins to the right, and is a stamina type. And here at the bottom, it shows the blader, right? Which is our Kenta, and I think his design in the third season version is really cool, by the way. I really think it's cool. It looks way more badass with the little glove, his vest. It's not really a vest, but this turtleneck shirt, super cool. And the constellation of Sagittarius is represented, which I also think is really cool. Now on the back, when we turn it around, we can see a bit more of the parts of our bay, right? It's not a bay that comes with a 4D tip, but rather with a traditional track and tip, but it does have a fusion wheel from the 4D system, which is pretty interesting with two modes, stamina and attack, that I'll be showing you. Anyway, well, let's analyze each part, get to know Sagittarius a bit better, because I'm super excited to show you how cool this bay is and also how beautiful it is. Let's go. Well, with our bay disassembled, we have here the 5 components that make up our Flash Sagittarius, right? And man, let's start with the face bolt. I'm excited, man, because I think this bay, wow, I think it's just so beautiful, man. So let's start with the face bolt. Let's zoom in here on our Sagittarius face bolt, and we can already see how different it is from its traditional version, right? First of all, we no longer have the SGTO abbreviation. I think that was the abbreviation, right? Which represented Sagittarius, the abbreviation for Sagittarius on the upper part, which was right here. They removed that, made the face bigger. In fact, they made Sagittarius's eyes bigger, making them more prominent and detailed, right? In my opinion, at least it brought more detail to his gaze. And I think, man, it's really cool how that arrow is embedded in his gaze, like a scar to make him look even more badass, right? Because he's already got that kind of tough look, like he's saying, bro, don't mess with me. I also really like the visual concept, kind of like a gradient, you know? Where there's light in the center and orange radiating out to the edges, which makes it really beautiful. Seriously, I think this face boot is really cool. Right after that, we have the Sagittarius 2 Clear L, guys, where basically it also has a concept of iron powder material incorporated into it. As we can see when we do this light control here, we can see metal particles inside the clear rail to give it more weight, more substance. But honestly, this increase in weight is almost negligible. It adds some resistance to the aerodynamics, improves the bay's aerodynamics, and brings more balance. So whether you like it or not, it does make a difference. And man, one thing I find really cool is how well thought out the visual concept is. When we hold it like this, kind of horizontally, we can see the idea behind these stickers here, right? Basically, this blue part would be the arrowhead. And these red parts here, both here and here as well, would represent the bow. In other words, there are 2 arrows pointing in opposite directions as if they're about to be shot from the bow, which is really cool. And the design of these 2 stickers on the inside, the blue and red ones, it's the effect of the arrow being released. Man, that's really awesome. Seriously, this is really cool. And it's very circular to bring centralization to the sway. To provide more resistance, a really good weight distribution, you know? So that it can stay perfectly in the arena. This is really good. And well, in our fusion wheel flash, we have 2 parts that make it up, which are the metal flame and the core, right? When we take both parts here to analyze some of the details, you can see, man, these beautiful details of the engraved ripples on the metal make it look really elegant, man. This is honestly, wow, it's really beautiful, man. The treatment, the level of detail they put in to make these metals look even better, man. Seriously, it really represents, it's as if this is truly a legendary item. It brings that energy that Sagittarius, or rather this version of Sagittarius, is the ultimate version, you know? But how do we do it? So we can have both modes. The base mode of Sagittarius is this one here, where it's totally kind of oval, right? It's not exactly circular, it's oval. It's really flattened on the vertical sides from this perspective. In this case, this is the stamina mode, and as the name suggests, it's totally suited for that. So that this bay can stay centered, take control, and simply beat the opponent through its spin. Since it's a stamina bay, and that's how stamina bays are meant to win, but we also have another mode that I find really interesting, which is actually used a lot, or at least was used a lot in competitive play, which is its attack mode. To switch it to attack mode, all we have to do is detach the metal frame here, rotate the core, and basically we have attack mode. Attack mode happens precisely because our core becomes exposed, and this exposure of the core also leaves the metal frame exposed to make contact. Look, when we set it downward, we can see where it makes contact on this part of the metal frame, which is the upper part here, right? So we leave the contact points really exposed, and also the part of our core that was exposed is right here in this area. In other words, there are 4 thick metal contact points that really do damage to the opponent, man. So it was used a lot in competitive play because of this attack combination. This makes Sagittario really strong in terms of attack. But in my opinion, with Flash Sagittario, it's not efficient to use this, mainly because it's very tall. To use this here, you'd have to launch it at an angle. If you launch it tilted like this, then it would be able to hit with the metal parts. But most of the time, during battles, it's just gonna stay like this, upright. The bays will barely make contact with this metal part of it. Yes, they'll hit its track and you'll understand why that happens. So, in my opinion, for Flash Sagittario, this mode is almost poorly used. But for other bays, this combination, in my view at least, is much better. Anyway, right after that we have our track, which is very distinctive, the 230. This track is the tallest track ever released in the Metal Fight saga. It was already introduced with Flame Bixis, which came out in Beyblade Metal Masters. I don't have it here, but I'll buy one someday so we can do an unboxing when we get to the Metal Masters saga. I skipped it to go straight to Metal Fury because I wanted to focus on Metal Fury first. Well, this 230 track, as much as you look at it and think, wow, it's a tall track, so it's always going to be exposed to contact, right? In a way, yes, but in a way, no. What do I mean by that? It's actually designed so that it will be exposed, that's why it's tall. It's made for the base to hit it. But since it's made of plastic, the impact will always be absorbed by this plastic. And it's not just because of the plastic, but also because of the way it's designed, its shape. Since it usually stays in this position, this part is kind of sloped. What do you mean? You can see that it's not flat, it actually has a bit of a downward slope. This downward slope is exactly what helps it absorb impacts better and provides a rich recoil for the bay, meaning when the bay hits here, it recoils, absorbs the impact, and restabilizes the bay. This is really good for Sagittario since this part is constantly exposed to battle, and it also helps due to its height to prevent the bay from getting destabilized when it hits the metal. Because the metal, it doesn't destabilize the bay, right? Precisely because it's made of plastic, it will reduce the resistance to the speed of our bay, which in this case is Sagittario, so it actually helps a lot. Since this here is going to be the defensive wall of our... Well, it's a track that in theory seems kind of random because it's very tall, so it's very exposed, but actually there's a lot of technique behind it, a lot of mechanics that help protect your asset, right? So it's really cool. And it's actually a translucent yellow color, really cute, right? Super cool. And finally, we have our white tip. Defense, a totally classic tip that was introduced back with Earth Eagle. An incredible tip that combines defense and stamina concepts, since it's a slightly pointed tip as we can see here, right? If I put my hand here, we can see it a bit better. It's a pointed tip, but not too much, which is great, especially here for Flame Sagittario since it's tall. If it were a much sharper tip, that would be pretty bad, because any slight contact that destabilized this bay would make it start wobbling, and then it would lose stamina and end up stopping its spin. So, for Flash Sagittario, this tip is a real lifesaver. It really helps maintain the bay's stability and stamina. So even though it's not innovative, it's perfect for this case. And another thing, this yellow color on it matches really well with the track and the whole context of the bay, making it look really elegant. Anyway, let's get started assembling our bay here. Let's start with our fusion flash. Sometimes I have this habit of saying flame, I don't know why, but it's flash. And grabbing our fusion flash here, I'm already going to set it to stamina mode, which for me is the best mode for Sagittarius, for this specific one. Let's put our clear wheel here. All right, lined up. Now we're going to flip it over and put our B track, this giant track here on the hexagonal part. Once that's done, we go back, grab the face bolt, fit it in and give it a slight twist by hand and finish it off here with the tool, right? And finally, we fit the tip in and finish it off with the little tool as well. And this is the Flash Sagittario. 230 WD, man. Look at the size of this thing, guys. It's really big, you know? When we grab it here, for example, if you put Pegasus side by side, look at this. It's literally going to hit here. See? It will always hit the track part. And this, man, really helps our Flash Sagittario be less exposed to getting unbalanced and especially to losing stamina. Even if it hits and does this, the plastic's absorption will give it some recoil, so it goes back to being a bit straighter in the arena. Of course, not 100%, that's impossible, right? Because it's physics. But even so, it comes back here and stabilizes itself, giving this bay more stability and stamina. And its tip, this wide defense really helps with that. Because if it had a tip, like for example, the one from the original Sagittario or from Flame Libra, then man, this bay would always be wobbling around the arena like this and would end up stopping as soon as it touched the arena. It would lose stamina, the spin would stop, and well, it would end up losing. But because the wide defense is wide and has this concept of defense and stamina, it really helps this Bey to be more stable. Really cool. Really, really cool. This Bey is very interesting, and its parts, specifically the fusion wheel, work really well for other combos. Flash is a very good fusion wheel in attack mode for other Beys, since it's a tall Bey, so you barely make contact with its fusion wheel, so in my view, it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, well, I want to test it out. Obviously, I'm going to test both modes so you can see how they work in battle. But before anything else, I want to ask you for something. I want to ask you to leave a like, subscribe down below. It's really important that you do that, and become a member, man. By becoming a member, you help bring in more special products like this one and more cool videos too, all right? All right, let's go test out this legendary monster here. The definitive version of our Kenta's Sagittario, shall we? To start off the battle tests for Flash Sagittario, I want to do a battle against the balance type, which is one of the best Beys of that type, Earth Eagle. Testing it here against our Flash Sagittario. Let's see how Tsubasa's Bey does versus our Kenta's Bey. Ready? We're going to launch Flash Sagittario here, of course. Since it's a stamina type, we'll launch it straight, and Eagle as well. Okay? It'll be interesting to see this battle because both of these Beys are really good. Eagle is one of the most solid ones out there, both in terms of its stamina and its defense. It's really well-rounded in both aspects. And Sagittario here is going to be something different, because this is the first time I've ever spun this Flash Sagittario in my life, man. But look, just proving what I mentioned to you guys, a Bey that really goes for the center of the arena. Check it out. Totally centered. Earth Eagle, which is usually seen in the center, can't take that spot because Flash Sagittario already has it. And in terms of stamina, in theory, Sagittario is better, but let's see. Both Beys use the eye defense tip, which they have in common, but maybe Sagittario's height will help here because it can absorb the impacts better, huh? Earth Eagle and Sagittario are both losing stamina, but Sagittario is known as the king of this. Let's see who wins. Let's see who wins. It's down to the final moment. Will it be Eagle? Will it be Sagittario? Sagittario? Oh, Sagittario takes it, guys. He did it. Showing here why it's one of the most incredible Beys when it comes to stamina. Hey, I want to do a battle here in the 4D system, and I want to test Fang Leone's defense type against Sagittarius. Here's resistance type. Let's see how this turns out. Kyoya versus Kenta? Let's go. I'm going to introduce Sagittarius here, which you already know is the resistance type. And now Leone. Okay. Wow, what is this? R. Wow, what a pain. Oh, what was that? I mentioned in the analysis that usually Sagittarius doesn't have much contact with its metal part, right? Didn't I tell you guys that? Because it's so tall, usually you'll only have it hitting here and not here. So what happened in this battle? The Bey was completely tilted, only hitting the metal part of Fang Leone. And Fang Leone was hitting here, and it was a crazy beatdown, sending Fang Leone flying out. What a dominant victory for Sagittarius. Insane, this one was just insane. Look, before we go to our final battle of the 4D system, I want to do a battle here that you were obviously expecting, which is between the two versions of Sagittarius. The first, which is Flame Sagittarius against its final and legendary version, Flash Sagittarius. Shall we? Alright, let's launch Flash first. And now Flame, let's see. Let's see who wins here. Who's more resilient? Who's more solid? I'm betting on Flash, right? There's no way around it. Look at the recoil. Wow, no. Damn, what is this, guys? This Bey is making me eat my words. It has a really strong attack power. Really strong. I really like this one, huh? I liked it a lot. And of course, we couldn't leave this one out. If it weren't for this Bey, this one wouldn't exist. Because it was thanks to Ryuga's sacrifice that Flash Sagittarius was born. So let's do another attack type battle here, but this time counterclockwise. Against our legendary stamina type Bey, Flash Sagittarius. Shall we? Alright, let's start by launching, obviously, Flash Sagittarius right in the center, and now Destructor to see what happens. Look at this. Look how Destructor is hitting from underneath Flash Sagittarius, but Sagittarius is managing to stabilize really well. Sujato's El Drago has already activated its stamina tip, centering itself just like we saw in his video, but there's no way. If it comes down to stamina, Sagittarius wins, man. If it comes down to Sagittarius' stamina, what did I tell you guys? What did I tell you guys? It's crazy, but the final battle deserves a best of 3, especially because this one is iconic. So 1-0 Flash Sagittarius. Hello, Sagittarius again. Perfect launch. I did it straight and now tilted. The attack already connects on Sagittarius's track, but Sagittarius has already lowered its tip to hit with the fusion wheel. Look at how it tilts, hitting with the fusion wheel, but it stabilized a lot, huh? How it stabilized. Wow, that's something. Honestly, that's why I love stamina battles. I love stamina battles. That's why, man. This Bey here is insane, bro. Insane, man. He took a hit from underneath by El Drago Destructor, which left him completely upright again. He was almost scraping metal on the arena, and that would make him lose stamina and spin. But it didn't happen. He managed to stabilize himself by hitting El Drago, and ended up destabilizing El Drago that way, bringing victory to our Sagittarius. What an incredible battle. And guys, these were the battle tests here with our Flash Sagittarius. What an amazing series of battles, showing why it's one of the best stamina type Beys. And man, this video deserves your like and for you to subscribe because those were some incredible battles. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much. See you next time with another video. We're in this together and let it rip.